Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So the other day I was scrolling through YouTube and I came across a video by creator Kurtis Connor. Now if you don't know who Kurtis Connor is, he is a very large creator here on the platform with over 4 million subscribers, and he does more commentary, satire, comedy type of videos, and he made a video titled A Deep Dive into Potterheads. By now the video has close to 5 million subscribers, and I wanted to take this chance and, as a self-proclaimed Potterhead, give my perspective on the entire Potterhead idea. Now this video, I do want to preface by saying, is in no way me attacking Kurtis Connor or saying that what he said on his video was wrong. To be honest, I didn't feel offended at all while watching his video. If anything, I found it to be quite funny, and to be honest, in some of the things he had to say, he did have a point. But if you want to see more about what his perspective was on Potterheads, then I will suggest watching his video. I will link his channel and the video down below so that you can watch it if you haven't already. But this is more like my take on what he was saying on his video. So the first thing I want to talk about is how I feel that is very unfair the way Potterheads, or even Disney adults or adults who enjoy things like gaming and cosplay, are often seen as weird or out of place, or they may have some type of problem, only because the interest that they have or where they decide to focus their interest is something that is more geared toward children or young adults. Now I'll give you guys an example. I work a corporate job where I work for a very large company, and I often have to be in meetings with many executives and very high level people. And there was this one time where I was in a meeting and I felt so bad, but I was in this meeting and we were in the process of acquiring another company, and we had people from that company with us in this board meeting. And as a type of icebreaker thing, they decided to go around the room and everyone had to say like what they enjoy to do on their free time and stuff like that. A lot of the people that were in the room were saying things like, oh, they enjoy football and they like to go golfing and they do hikes, and some of them were into travel and stuff like that. And at that point in time, I was still not doing a lot of travel because I just couldn't afford it. So we often just spent our time here at home. We played video games, we watched movies, and we did that kind of stuff. And if we did any travel, we kind of did travel to like Orlando or Universal or Disney and stuff like that. And as everyone was sharing their interest, it came to me and I was honest and I said, well, you know, on my free time, I like to spend time with my family, with my son. We like to play video games. We do a lot of gaming in my house. Back then, we had this really nice gaming room set up for me and my husband. So I was honest and I said, you know, that's what we like to do. And when I am telling you guys that people were looking at me like I had said I like to go around the neighborhood and steal people's chickens, that is exactly the looks I got. People were looking at me so weird, like I had said something wrong or like my interests were wrong. But at the same time, I know that they also felt like it was awkward because I felt awkward, and they kind of tried to like ask me like, oh, so what kind of games do you play? And at that point I was like, oh my god, I'm not gonna tell these people anything, because I didn't want to get into like a, oh, well, we play Fortnite or we play like Need for Speed. Like I just felt very uncomfortable. So I didn't say anything, and I was like, oh no, we just, you know, play a lot of different types of game, and I was just hoping they would go to the next person. But from that moment on, I realized that if I was ever in that scenario again, I would have to kind of make up something else that sounded more adult-like, because my true hobbies and my true interests were going to be seen as weird. And here's where I say it's very unfair, because when I look around other people and their hobbies that seem to be normal hobbies for adults, I don't think us as Potterheads or as Disney adults do anything too different from what they do. So for example, you'll have people who love football, and you'll have them love football to the point where they have like a whole room dedicated to be their man cave, and they have it decorated, and they get memorabilia, and they have collectibles from their favorite team, and they'll buy like the entire season pass to go see a football game, and they'll buy the jersey, and they'll buy the whole outfit, and no one bats an eye at this. No one sees it weird, I guess because football is seen as something that is more acceptable amongst adults. But then if you have people like me, or like people that I follow on the platform, that, for example, like the Potter Collector or GeoJammies on Instagram, and we do things that are similar, where we're going to Universal Studios a couple times a year, or where we'll like dress up with our favorite character, or we'll do cosplay, or we'll collect stuff from our favorite franchises, then that's weird because it's Harry Potter or because it's Disney, and adults aren't supposed to like those things because those things are for kids. So I think there's a really big double standard of what type of things are acceptable to like as an adult and what things aren't. And then to go a little bit further, because if you do end up watching Kurtis's video, or if you have watched Kurtis's video, he really takes it from like the beginning stages of a Potterhead, where you're probably like a person who has watched the movies a couple of times. You've probably been to the parks once or twice, and stuff like that, like a very basic level Potterhead. And then he goes escalating to where now like you probably did your sorting quiz, and you probably own some robes, and you go to the parks often, or you like do cosplay or stuff like that. Like he goes incrementing in his levels of Potterhead to the point where he gets to the point where like people are like marrying cardboard cutouts of Alan Rickman dressed up as Snape and stuff like that, or people who will name their kids Harry Potter character names, or who will write fan fiction. And yes, well, I know these things might be a little bit weird, especially if they get to the point where you're marrying a cardboard cutout. I mean, to each their own, and if that makes you happy, that is fine. I am not here to criticize whatever makes anyone happy. But is that weird? Yes, it is weird. I have to be honest, that is a little bit weird, but at the same time, that isn't the norm. They make it seem like Disney adults and Potterheads are all like up there, and there's very few that are like down here in the middle. And I don't think that's very fair, because I'm sure there's someone who is like a fanatic of football or any other thing. And I always say football because I live in Texas and football is a really big thing here in Texas. But I'm sure there's people who have other interests in things that are considered acceptable for adults who also go to the extreme. But no one ever highlights that. But for some reason, when you talk about a Disney adult or you highlight a Potterhead, they always go to the extreme of the people who are like renaming their kids something, a character related, or people who are like fighting each other for a fast pass in Disney. Well, I feel like, yeah, that does happen, but that's not like everyone. That's not like the norm of everyone. Most of us are just chilling, reading the books, watching the movies, collecting our things, and enjoying what we enjoy with people who also enjoy the same things that we enjoy. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the things that I find, or the reasons that I find people fall into becoming Potterheads. And these reasons can also apply for other fandoms, like, Disney adults or video game, people who are into gaming or anything like that. But because this video is specifically about Potterheads, these are the reasons that I've found, or that I've been able to talk to other people who consider themselves Potterheads would say led them to be Potterheads. Now, I wanted to touch a little bit about the actual world of Harry Potter. And now I know there is a lot of controversy behind the author of the books, and this video is in no way of me addressing any of that. There is no denying that the world of Harry Potter was exceptionally built. And if you are a person who has ever tried to write a story or a book or anything, you understand the complexity of being able to take something and create something so incredibly detailed and big as is the wizarding world. And not a lot of authors are able to do that. To be able to create something that feels so real, that is so incredibly detailed, where you have these characters who are so incredibly detailed as well, and who each of them have these backstories and this whole entire life for you to look into and to read and to fall in love with and to feel identified with. So there's no denying that the entire world itself is amazing. So I feel that one of the main reasons that brings people to becoming a Potterhead is because there is this big sense of nostalgia behind the franchise. Now, I myself was already in my senior year of high school by the time the first movie was released, and I did not read the books as a teenager, but I know there's a ton of people who have the Harry Potter books and who see the Harry Potter books as something that was just like a pivotal part of growing up. They were probably the same age that the characters were at the time that the books were released, or it was something that they were able to do with a loved one. So for example, I've heard a lot the Potter Collector here on YouTube talk about how for him, Harry Potter became something so important because his grandmother was the one who gifted him his first Harry Potter books. I believe I saw an interview with Daniel Radcliffe saying the same thing, that Harry Potter was that one thing that would bring him and his father together, that they often didn't do a lot of things together, but Harry Potter was that one thing that they would do together. And I think that there's a lot of nostalgia behind the franchise. There's people who grew up reading the books and who then later grew up watching the movies and who have awesome memories behind the franchise because it was something they did with someone important to them, and it was just part of who they were growing up. And as an adult now, they still have that love for the franchise because when they look at it now, they still can feel those lovely feelings that they get remembering when they read it as a teenager and when they read it with someone important in their life. So I think there is a really big sense of nostalgia behind the franchise. Now, my second reason, I also have noted that there's also a very large group of people who don't necessarily associate Harry Potter with a good time in their life or with good memories in their life, but they found refuge in the franchise because they were probably going through something very difficult in their life. There's a lot of people who have said that Harry Potter is something that got them out of a rough moment, or that they would read Harry Potter or they would watch the movies whenever they were going through something really hard or difficult or bad. People who found a lot of comfort within the franchise when they lost a loved one or when they were going through something very difficult. And now they still hold a very special place in their hearts for the franchise because it was something so important to them during a time where they needed to have something that would kind of take them out of that dark place that they were in and be able to make it through those dark times. There's also a lot of people who say that they fell in love with the franchise because they felt identified with some of the characters of the book that were kind of like the misfits. And I think that's one of the things that makes Harry Potter so amazing, that you have so many different types of characters. It's very easy for you to be able to say, you know, I see myself in Harry, or I see myself in Hermione, I see myself in Luna, I see myself in Neville. And there's tons of people who fell in love with the franchise and with the books and with the movies because they often fell out of place. They felt they didn't belong. They felt they were awkward. And then seeing people like them in these movies, like Neville and Luna, who were so different and awkward and struggled with confidence, they saw themselves in these characters and they were able to make it through these hard times by watching these characters grow and evolve, and then, you know, later on in the later movies become very confident and successful and a part of something. So I think a lot of people hold on to their love for Harry Potter because they feel that way. So like I said, I didn't necessarily experience Harry Potter as a young adult because I was already in my senior year by the time the movies were released, and I didn't really read the books growing up. But for me, Harry Potter became like this escape from reality. Now, when you become an adult, when you're like more into your working years and you're like after college and you go into the, you know, corporate America as we call it, it can be very stressful. It is very hard. I know a lot of times, like, I've had terrible days. I'm so stressed out. I've had like a day where I've cried at work because I'm so stressed out. And to be able to have something where you kind of like are able to close that door of reality and walk into something different and just lose yourself in a fantasy world and have this thing that will take your mind off of the day-to-day stress of what you have to do tomorrow, of the reality of everything. I think that's where I kind of fell into becoming a Potterhead, because I was so stressed out on my day-to-day that I needed to find something that would give me that chance to like break free from the reality. And it became something really special because I was something that I could share with my husband. My husband loves watching the Harry Potter movies. By now we've watched them hundreds of times. So to be able to share that with him and just sit and chill and have like a nice relaxed afternoon and watch these movies with him and be able to take myself out of the stress of the day was something amazing. Because when you become an adult, it's like it's expected of you to always be in this serious type of mood and area where you're like working and then you're like looking at the news and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that I don't want to know what's going on in the world, and of course I do, and I worry about stuff that's happening around us, but at the same time I do need to be able to disconnect from all that stuff and the, you know, the stress of work and the negativity of just the world we're living right now, and be able to go somewhere where you can kind of recharge and feel better. And I think a lot of people are able to find that in Harry Potter. They're able to find that in Disney. They're able to find that in gaming. They find it in all these things that we're so heavily criticized for, and we're laughed at and we're looked at being weird because we're doing these kid-like stuff. But it's what we find comfort in. And I think it's awesome to be able to do that in something like a fandom, like Harry Potter, like Disney, like Star Wars, like Lord of the Rings, like the Hunger Games, and books and video games. Because a lot of people my age or in my generation fall into things like drugs and alcohol in order to numb their pain of the day-to-day situation. And when you look at it that way, it's like, would you rather us have to go and look for comfort in these things that are harming us, that would harm our family, that would harm our loved ones? Or would you just rather us be happy watching the movies we like to watch, reading the books we like to read, playing the video games we like to play? So I think there is a big community of people who found Harry Potter as an escape from their current day-to-day stressors. I think a lot of people also fall into becoming Potterheads, especially in the later times of their life as an adult, because when you become an adult, you're able to afford things that maybe as a child you weren't. Like, I know for sure I wouldn't have been able to afford none of the things I have in this room right now, like my gaming consoles, my gaming PC, my collectibles. I wouldn't have been able to buy any of that. So as a child, you kind of have to hold back on things you want to have or buy because you probably don't have the money to do so. And then as an adult, where you have the money, as long as you're spending your money responsibly, you have the income to be able to buy these things and to have these things that bring you joy. And as long as these things are bringing you joy and happiness, then I see nothing wrong with it. And then the last thing I have noted on my phone is being part of a community. I don't care how much people say that they are introverted, that they like to be alone. I consider myself a very, very introverted person. I very much enjoy my alone time, even from the people I love most, which are like my husband and my son. Even at times, I feel like I need alone time, even from them. So I don't care how much of an introvert or a lonely type of person you say you are. Everyone wants to feel part of a community. It doesn't have to be a large community, so it doesn't mean that you have to feel like you're part of everything, but everyone wants to feel like they belong somewhere. And I think when you find a fandom that you can relate to, like the Potterheads, it is a very nice place to be because you're able to find people who enjoy the same things you do. You can discuss the lore with them. You can share your collectibles and share the things you have bought and tell them where you bought it, and then they'll tell you where they got other stuff, or just share the love of what you enjoy doing. Same thing for people who enjoy Disney or gaming. Like, for you to be able to find your people and to be able to form a nice little community, friendships that have come out of being Potterheads or Disney adults or Star Wars fans or whatever, are friendships that can last a whole entire lifetime. And I think, like I said, I don't think it matters how much you say that you are okay with being alone. Everybody wants to feel like they're part of something, of a group. And if you find people, like-minded people like yourself, who can make you feel like you're part of something, it's just amazing. I have found that in my YouTube community. I have found that in my Instagram community, where I have found people who are just like me, who are okay with being adults who enjoy Harry Potter, who are adults who enjoy going to the Wizarding World, who have gone to Europe, who have gone to the Warner Brothers Studios tour, who collect things, who find a joy in collecting books, even if you have the same book 100 times in different languages. So for you to find people who you can relate to is really awesome, because I think everyone needs to be part of something. So can someone take something that they enjoy, like a fandom, to the extreme? Yes, of course you can. But I don't think that is something that is limited only to Potterheads or Disney adults. I think that is something that can happen in anything you love. That's something that you can see in football, in golf, in racing, and anything else that people love to do. I think that isn't something that's exclusive to us. Does it get a little bit more highlighted when it is a Potterhead or a Disney adult? Yes, because I think people find it funny, or they find it entertaining to point the finger at people like me, or like other people who are Potterheads or Disney adults. I think they find it entertaining to do that. But again, like I said, I don't think that is the majority. I think the majority of the people who enjoy fandoms like Harry Potter, like Disney, like Lord of the Rings, like Star Wars are pretty down-to-earth people who just like what they like, and they just like to share with other people who like the same things. I don't think like the majority is up in the extreme where they're like marrying cardboard cutouts of their favorite Harry Potter characters or anything like that. But you know, the media is sensational, and those kind of things will get people's attention. So I would just say, do what you love to do, as long as you're not hurting anyone. Love what you love, and don't be afraid to show people who you are and what makes you you and so special. At the end of the day, life is so incredibly short for us to be worrying about what other people are going to say or think about us. Let me know down below in the comments section, do you consider yourself a Potterhead? And if so, what was the reason that brought you to the community? If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel, give it a like, and I will see you in the next one.